Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jacob Van Lunen, and I'm here with...
I'm Joey Pasco.
And we're in Baltimore, Maryland, covering the Star City Games Legacy Open. We're about to bring you guys coverage of round 5.
Yep. 5 of 9.
5 of 9. Yep. We have a match here between Alex Bertoncini.
You may have heard of him.
And Drew Levin.
You may have also heard of him.
Yeah. And this is going to be pretty interesting. Drew is playing a blue-white control deck, much like he has played for the past few weeks.
Yeah.
While Alex is playing a no rug deck.
Yes, exactly.
So
Alex has forsaken the fish for this tournament, at least, just to go with no rug, which is interesting because I mean he's done so well with Merfolk.
Yeah.
And instead he chooses to play Vendilion Click and Tarmogoyf, Noble Hierarch. He's got the Progenitus, of course, with the natural order package, and he's got 2 Grim Lavamancers in there. Yeah. Returning card in M12 already confirmed. M12. Very exciting.
Yeah, that is a pretty exciting card. It looks as if Alex hired a 4-year-old to write this up for him.
He may have.
This is interesting handwriting.
Take a look at Drew's list. Drew, again, playing a blue-white list. Now, see, I love Drew Levin. This is the kind of list I love. Oh, yeah. He is not playing the Stoneforge Mystic Batterskull combo in here. I love that. Not even in the sideboard. And that's how I feel like about this deck. I don't want to add Stoneforge Mystic into the deck. There's Drew there on the right, rocking out to something. Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around. I don't know if that's what he's listening to, but we can just pretend.
Is that you?
Never gonna give, never gonna give, never gonna give. So
one can only assume.
Yeah, I mean we have to figure. You have to put Drew on. Never gonna give you up. You know, you have to put him on the Rick Astley, right? So, but he is playing the blue-white. Essentially, it's his standstill list from Orlando, modified to switch out the standstills for Ancestral Vision, and he's got Wrath of God's main deck. Of course, 4 Jace the Mind Sculpt. He's got 1 main deck Elspeth. Another thing that's kind of being adopted by these blue-white control lists. Alex just leads with a Tropical Island, and Drew follows it up with a wastelanding that Tropical Island. So right now Drew just has a Tundra on board, but
Tundra's my favorite of all the original dual lands. It has bears on it.
Love the Tundra. Taiga's actually my favorite for the artwork. I just don't typically play red-green, so. Taiga was the only dual land I owned back in the 90s, though, because I was playing a lot of aggressive decks back then.
Nice.
So, Drew has a Spell Pierce for Alex's Tarmogoyf.
Yeah, and Spell Pierce is a really powerful card. Ascension first brought that out. A lot of people thought it might be too narrow, but it proved itself to be a card that's worthy of play in just about every format it's been legal. Yeah,
Mental Misstep, that card's too narrow. Wait, no. Not at all. Now I'm just out of curiosity, he's got 4 Mental Misstep, 4 Force of Will, and then 3 Spell Snare, 3 Counter Spell. So he's got 14 main deck counter spells in his deck.
Yeah, including 7 hard counters, which is something you rarely see in this format.
Alex attempts to brainstorm, and Drew has the Mental Misstep. And Alex is now going to Green Sun Zenith for a Dryad Arbor. So Drew should probably be preparing for a natural order to hit the stack momentarily. And if Drew doesn't have an answer for that, he's got to find an answer to Progenitus. So
yeah, now the interesting part about Alex's deck is when you cast your natural order, you open yourself to get blown out in a lot of situations. It was very nice of him to go get that Dryad Arbor because that can't be repealed. Yeah. So he's playing around that pretty well.
I mean, and it's great, you know, 1 mana tutor for a creature/land. Green creature.
Basically a land or elf that can't be repealed.
Right, and it's fantastic synergy with a natural order because it's a green creature. It is a green creature, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Just confirming it's green, right? For a second,
it's also a forest.
Myself. Yeah.
You can fetch it.
And Jace the Mind Sculptor for Drew. bounces. Was that just? That was dazed. Okay. And the force of will. Alex is dazed, and Jace bounces the Dryad Arbor, so sets Alex back
many turns.
2 lands, yeah, and also gives himself a way to dig into an answer to natural order, if indeed Alex has it. You gotta kind of put him on it when he does a Green Sun Zenith for a Dryad Arbor.
Yeah.
For his 4th land.
It seems obvious at that point.
Right. And you have to play around it, because otherwise you're going to be quickly under pressure from a 10-10 Hydra protection from everything. I think Progenitus is a Hydra, right? I mean, it looks like a Hydra anyway.
It looks like a Hydra to me.
Works for me. Even if it's not officially a Hydra, close enough. So, Alex fetches a second Dryad Arbor at the end of Drew's turn, so he has a way to attack Jace down to 1 counter, and then has a second Dryad Arbor, of course, the one that he had for Green Sun Zenith that was bounced with Jace. So, Elspeth, Knight Errant.
That's a good card.
Teaming up with Jace the Mind Sculptor. Those guys hung out a lot together alongside Johnny Vengeant last summer, I know, in the Super Friends deck in Standard. So
fun deck designed by Lou Laskin.
Yeah, old friends there. And Elspeth...
back together at last.
Yeah. Elspeth adds a soldier to the board. Johnny hasn't been hanging out as often with them, but... And Alex does have the natural order. And... it looks like it has resolved, and there is Progenitus. So
it's going to be pretty tough for Drew.
This is very interesting, though. I mean, Progenitus versus 2 of the best Planeswalkers ever printed, including probably, well, not probably, the best Planeswalker ever printed.
Yes.
And then one of the other best Planeswalkers ever printed.
Elspeth's probably a solid 2nd place for Planeswalkers all time.
I can get behind that. Until Tezzeret proves himself a little more, or Koth proves himself. So Drew untaps.
Let's see.
Brainstorms with Jace.
So I don't really see how Drew can win this.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering that myself. How do you fight a Progenitus? Wrath of God seems decent. Right? Wrath of God deals with Progenitus. He's got 2 main deck. I mean, with a Jace on board...
it's not that hard to find a 2-up.
Right. Yeah. He's seeing a lot more cards than just a typical 1, so you can kind of almost think of it almost as if he has 6 Wrath of Gods in the main. He has Crucible of Worlds, and Alex takes a look at what lands Drew can play off of that Crucible.
Drew's going to get a Wasteland. Yeah. Oh no, he's going to get a... he wants to look for that Wrath.
Yeah, he's digging for Wrath, exactly. Yeah. He needs the shuffle effect. So, Elspeth, +1, another soldier there. Passes the turn.
And Drew drops down to 7.
Yep, so Drew has
this next turn to find a Wrath of God, or it's in a pretty rough spot.
Yeah, very little time to find that. Grim Lavamancer from Alex. Drew says sure. And
I wouldn't have played that Lavamancer if I were Alex. The Progenitus is going to do it on its own anyway. Yeah. The only thing that you're worried about is a Wrath of God. It's the only card that beats you, so playing Lavamancer.
Seems like you're just giving it up if Drew does draw a Wrath of God.
So Drew fetches up a volcanic island. And let's see what he can find with that Jace. He can go 4 cards deep or more, depending. And if he finds a Wrath of God, then he's in a very good position in this game.
So there's the Brainstorm. Did I see a Wrath? No, it was a Swords.
Swords to Plowshares.
Not what he wants.
No.
Looks like he's going to replay the Flooded Strand and search again. Oh. Did Alex just stop him or no? Alex. So, just fetches a basic island there. Now note, he did fetch a volcanic island that produces red mana in a blue-white control list. That is for the sideboard red elemental blasts and pyroblasts that Drew has. Nothing main deck.
No entry explosives even? Nope, you're right.
No main deck needs for red mana, but the sideboard red elemental blasts and pyroblasts seem really good against. Just the mirror match seems really good. So now he has a brainstorm. Not from Jace. Cards. This time from the actual namesake brainstorm. So is Drew able to find an answer? Was he able to find Wrath of God? Thinning his deck, drawing some cards. Second brainstorm. Drawing just a little bit deeper. And no, can't fight Progenitus.
So, and Drew had to look at a lot of cards there, and was unable to find the Wrath of God that was necessary in order for him to win that game.
Yeah, but I mean, he had a lot of opportunities to find it.
So he dug pretty hard.
Just like we saw yesterday, I think was it, and I can't remember what match it was, but somebody just digging for the Splinter Twin, and if it would have been there in the top 4, that would have been it, right? But sometimes it's just not there, no matter how much digging you do. So
there's so many turns looking at those top cards. We also had the quarterfinal match yesterday where I saw somebody get flooded worse than I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, Nate Chafe, really brutal flooding with the Jace on board, fetching and shuffling and brainstorming, and just can't stop drawing lands. Kind of unbelievable. So looking at the sideboards.
Let's get these sideboards.
Drew has
an extra Wasteland, which is definitely coming in.
An extra Elspeth, which seems, Elspeth just seems so good. Especially against a deck that wants to attack, except in cases when it's attacking with her Progenitus.
Yeah.
The problem is, Drew just couldn't stop that natural order, and then couldn't stop the Progenitus. He had opportunities there, but just couldn't find the answer. Sometimes that's what happens. Sometimes you just don't win.
It's true. Drew's going to need to side with these Elspeths also, because he needs an effective answer for Thrun.
Yes. I mean, he has Wrath of God main deck. That's a great answer to Thrun.
It's true. But, it's not always enough.
Well, he couldn't find it there. So, Elspeth probably coming in. Wasteland seems good enough to come in just to deal with Dryad Arbors. And, of course, Alex has plenty of Wasteland targets. What do you think about Vendilion Click coming in for Drew to potentially steal something like a natural order? Does he need to? Is that even something he needs to really? Does he need to fight the natural order with a Vendilion Click? I mean, he has so much counter magic.
I think he has enough counter magic where he doesn't really need to do that. I think he may have been a little too overzealous there, trying to resolve that Jace. He used a Force of Will and pitched a Force of Will. Had he, just played it a little safer and prevented Alex from getting the Progenitus on the table, then he wouldn't have needed to so frantically search for that Wrath as he did.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know what was in Alex's hand, but all we saw Alex do was Green Sun Zenith for Dryad Arbor into Natural Order into Progenitus. I mean, that was all he needed to do, and he could have had all kinds of other action, but I mean, we saw him play Grim Lavamancer kind of for no reason, but
he ran that Grim Lavamancer out there, and I don't know, maybe he's just not really used to this deck. Maybe he doesn't quite know what's in Drew Levin's deck.
Yeah, maybe he's figuring if Drew has a way to stop the Progenitus, and not thinking about Wrath of God, but if Drew has a way to stop the Progenitus, then I want to, and I can shoot Jace too, and keep him off of answers. Like maybe he just has a fog or something, and the Progenitus just needs to be around for just another turn or two. But stopping Drew from digging with Jace seems really good. So.
Oh, Wes went to the store with his cousin.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. one of the things that is really interesting about the list Drew is playing here is the Wrath of Gods. That's something we haven't really seen in these lists.
Drew's been pushing it a little bit recently, but you know, sometimes sideboard. I think he played it main deck recently somewhere. I just can't remember where. I don't know if it was in Providence, but maybe post Providence at another event. Maybe at the Invitational, he may have had the Wrath of God's main. But yeah, Wrath of God just wasn't in the original list, but seems like a great answer to Progenitus, to Thrun, you know. Emrakul, yeah, definitely susceptible to a Wrath of God. Alex smiles up at us from his opening hand.
And
Drew.
Normally, when he does that with his opening hand, he loses. Just saying.
Really, I haven't noticed that stat. Drew leads with the Misty Rainforest and into a Tundra and Ancestral Vision. So, pretty good opening turn one for the blue-white control deck. Almost exactly what you want to do.
Yeah. I mean, if the game goes that long, you will get a massive advantage when that card resolves.
Alex plays Noble Hierarch.
One of the best one-drops ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Drew declines to mental misstep it, whether that's because he doesn't have it or because he just doesn't want to, which is unlikely. We don't know, but probably just doesn't have it. So Alex now gets to break serve. Oh, with a second Noble Hierarch, so he may actually be land light. Yeah, attack for 2.
I mean,
no, he's not land light. Dryad Arbor.
That's what's so sick about the Noble Hierarchs is they attack very aggressively. If you have a double Noble Hierarch draw, you're attacking for 2 on turn 2.
How quickly? I mean, Alex is ready to set up for natural order.
Yeah.
This turn, if Drew can't counter it, we're back to digging for an answer to Progenitus.
So he's getting in for 3, but Drew down to 14.
Yeah, so no natural order. Okay. So Drew's hand is 2 Swords to Plowshares, Brainstorm, Jace, and a Wrath of God. So no counterspell, but an answer to Progenitus nevertheless. Wrath of God would be good here.
Yeah, he needs to resolve it though, so he's probably going to wait for this Visions to come off. He can take another beat from this Arbor. And if Alex does actually try to go for Progenitus, then Drew has double swords. Oh, he goes for the swords now. That's interesting.
Mental misstep on the swords.
And
Drew brainstorms.
Surprised by the swords there. I guess it's fine. You're going to draw the 3 cards next turn, and after you brainstorm and shuffle away, so you're probably going to have more counter magic the next turn, and then you can just wrath with backup. So
exactly.
Just going to grab a Tundra here again.
I think so. Yes. So he goes for the other swords, and this time that Dryad Arbor is exiled. Alex gains some life. Drew saves himself some life.
I don't know about that. I mean, if he had waited, he could have gotten more value out of that Wrath of God and still the swords in hand.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. You know, I agree with that. But I'm curious to hear what Drew's plan was. Maybe he just wants to hold the Wrath at this point. Maybe he figures he's better off holding off on the Wrath for when it's absolutely necessary.
That makes sense.
I mean,
and now the Factory really prevents the Hierarchs from attacking him, so he's going to have to play into the Wrath anyway.
There's a Dryad Arbor from Alex. Drew, meanwhile, resolves the first Ancestral Vision and suspends the second one.
And now he's A lot of cards again, back
Yeah,
into 5 cards.
5 cards in hand now.
Ancestral Visions, you know, it shows you how unbelievable Ancestral Recall is, that even if you have to wait, you know, 4 additional turns for a card, it's still legacy worthy.
Yeah, underplayed in Legacy before about a month ago.
Yeah, very powerful spell.
So for those of you just joining us, I'm Joey Pasco here in the booth with Jacob Van Lunen. We're covering the StarCityGames.com Open Series for Legacy here in Baltimore, watching Alex Bertoncini versus Drew Levin, 2 big names here in round 5. Alex up a game with no rug, and versus Drew Levin's blue-white control list, blue-white creatureless control. Although that Elspeth does a good job of making dudes. Drew resolves Elspeth on his last turn and makes a soldier.
This is interesting. Is Drew going to trade with the factory?
So, yeah, Alex swings at Elspeth with a Dryad Arbor, and Drew seems to be interested in trading. The Dryad Arbor is a 1/1 naturally, but gets 2 Exalted triggers, so it's a 3/3, so that factory turns into a 2/2 and pumps itself to become a 3/3 as well. Trades, and it looks like Natural Order for Progenitus has just resolved for Alex. So Drew Levin, last game, was digging for the Wrath of God. This game, we're pretty sure he already has it. So
yeah, so he has the Wrath in hand. I wonder if Alex has any counter magic. Doesn't look like he does.
yeah, Drew stocked his hand off of his first Ancestral Visions, and he has a second one ticking down. Drew in the tank right now.
As soon as that's done, Alex is probably going to be outcarded for the remainder of the game.
What I'm guessing right now is that Drew doesn't have counter magic to back up the Wrath of God, and that's why he's tanking so hard.
And Alex has Force of Will with no blue card.
So there's the Wrath of God from Drew. And it works. So Progenitus, Noble Hierarch, and an Elspeth soldier die. Elspeth replenishes Drew's creatures with just a soldier, ticking up to 6. And
I think Drew's just going to pass back to Alex
Drew
here.
passes to Alex. So Progenitus gets shuffled back into Alex's library. So any more natural orders are still live. That's like one of the coolest things about Progenitus, and it makes that combo so strong because, okay, you dealt with my Progenitus, now you have to deal with it again if I just draw another natural order and have a green creature. So Alex adds a Taiga to the board and passes back to Drew. Visions ticks down to 1 counter. Drew adds a second Mishra's Factory to the board. He did lose 1 Mishra's Factory, so this is actually his second and third. Elspeth looks to have jumped one of those guys, and so Drew, I think, just got in for 4 plus 3,
7.
So 7, yeah.
Yep.
And oh, maybe not. Did he just add a soldier? Never mind. Maybe he didn't jump one of those guys.
Oh, okay. He just made a guy.
I thought he did. Yeah, I thought
he did also.
What he did was just create.
When he pointed at it, he was just pumping it with the other factory. He wasn't. I thought he pointed at it twice, and it must have been confusion over the factory pump, not an Elspeth pump.
So I think passes to Alex. Alex plays a land, passes back to Drew. Drew's Ancestral Vision attempts to resolve, and Alex hard casts Force of Will, so does not allow Drew to restock his hand. Drew activates both factories, and that's 6 damage, right? And then did he plus 3 it?
Yeah, he plus 3
Okay, plus 3'd something. So that would be 9. So that should put Alex down to 7, I believe.
So Alex is 7 now, and I think he's just dead on board.
Land go, and see what happens. Drew draws. Probably same plan as last turn. Island, activate. Now he's maybe holding back one factory. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 would be the exact amount he can pump with the other Mishra's factory to make it 8. Not that relevant, but no. Same plan as last turn. So it looks like Elspeth jumps a soldier. So it's yeah.
1-1 going on to game 3. Alex will be on the play for the third game. Now I wonder, do you think they're going to sideboard any differently when on the draw and on the play?
Trying to take a look at the list. I don't really feel like they're. I mean, something like Spell Snare loses a little bit of value, but I don't know. I mean, it doesn't seem. Still such a good card.
Still a good card here. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not as if he has something else that he really needs to bring in and needs the room for. I mean, he's got 4 Path to Exile. That's a nice removal spell, but still not sure. I don't know. He may have already brought in some paths. Don't know exactly.
I think he takes out like Spell Snares for like an Elspeth and V-Clicks, and then he takes out I wonder what else to take out. Probably take out Crucible.
Yeah. Elspeth definitely adds another dimension of both offense and defense to this deck, and that's something that I haven't tried yet.
Elspeth is one of my favorite cards. She's so powerful.
She's awesome. Like, I loved playing with Elspeth in Standard.
So did I.
I have her in the box, in my deck box with this deck, with my blue-white control deck, but I haven't actually put her in the main deck to test her out yet. But after watching a little bit of this, I'm convinced.
She is doing work. She is like, she was originally considered kind of an anti-control card. It just happened to be good against creature decks.
Yeah. At first, she wasn't. I remember on the day of the pre-release, people were like selling her to the dealer for like $6. I remember some guy came and was like, "What do you think? Do you think she's any good?" And I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, she's Planeswalker. That's I would probably hold mine just in case. And he comes up to me later like, "Yeah, I sold it for $6." I'm like, okay. Cool, I guess. Like, it's this guy I didn't really know. I think he was just chatting to me, but I didn't really want to be like, I wouldn't have done that, but kind of like, cool, okay. And then it was $25 next time I looked. Like,
yeah, I bought them really early on, and I think I even spent like 15 a piece on them. And I bought them really early on before anybody really caught on.
Right. They by the time Conflux was new, Elspeth had been around for a few months, and she was 25. That's about how much I spent for mine, and then she went up to like 30 and 35, and I've just held on to mine since. I'm not a big fan of dumping my cards after they're legal and standard, because they happen to they have a tendency to show up in older formats and then be relevant again. So, but I definitely like the Elspeth in this deck, because if there is a major, if there is I guess an Achilles heel for Drew's deck, is that it's slow. It doesn't have a lot of threats. It has Jace and it has Mishra's Factory, but with Elspeth now in the deck, that's an entirely other plan of attack, and also a great defense.
Yeah, it works both ways. Such a
She's
powerful
really,
spell.
really good. So I really like that.
Let's see.
So there were apparently enough players for 3 draft opens this weekend.
Wow.
Usually we have only 2.
They're in a third one?
They're running a third one. Very, very popular here this weekend. A lot of players drafting. A lot of players showing up just because that's what they want to do. They just want to draft.
It's funny how geographically drafts are very different. Like in New Jersey, the draft open filled up. The first one filled up within 5 minutes of them opening registration, things like that. Whereas, in some places in the Midwest, they can't even fill one. So
Yeah, definitely kind of interesting. So, Alex leads with a tropical island, and Drew wastelands it. Alex follows up with a volcanic island. Drew matches it with an arid mesa, and Alex follows up with a wooded foothills, and passes to Drew. So Drew now adds a winter Mishra's Factory to the board. Love the winter one. It is, and it's unfortunately like the $70 one, right?
Yeah.
I have the spring ones. I wanted black border ones. I had the 4th edition ones, and thought, well, I'll just go with the the $10 spring ones. I like spring, but I definitely love that one.
I have cheap, beaten up autumn.
Yeah. It's funny, like how isn't it like that one's like $70, and then the other 3 are just like 10 to 15 for some reason, something like that. It just seems funny to me that I guess it's just one rarer one.
It just looks so cool.
Or maybe it's just the most popular. It's like that much more popular than the other ones. So definitely a fan of that, but I can't justify spending 7 times as much just because I like one artwork better than another one.
Yeah.
So,
I feel the same way.
Yeah, I'll spend $10 on a card because I want it to be black border, not 70 or 60. So.
I destroy cards, so I try to not have nice things.
Yeah, that's why we can't have nice things. So there's this product, deck protectors, that people use to try not to destroy the cards. You should try this, Ultra Pro.
What is it? What are they called? The seamless?
Oh, the perfect fit? Or is that
perfect
what you're
fits?
Yeah. I was just talking about sleeves in general, but
yeah. Well, I mean, I use sleeves.
I know. I'm just messing with you. I mean, I assumed. I don't know that you use sleeves, but I do assume that you do.
I used to not use sleeves. I was encouraged to by friends.
So Vendilion Click from Alex. Drew has some sort of response here. Cracks his Arid Mesa. So that's the first spell of the game here.
Yeah, and V-Click is one of the better creatures for 3 mana.
Drew has a counter spell.
Yeah, and he has the blast.
Alex has the mental misstep.
Alex has the mental misstep for the blast. Let's see if.
Oh wow!
Ooh, a force.
Force removing Vendilion Click. He is really fighting over that click. That's interesting.
Yeah, perhaps he clearly doesn't have a swords in hand, or perhaps he has a chase in hand that he's planning on riding to victory. But we've seen Drew be very aggressive with forces when his opponents are playing combo decks, like things that can put a Tremendous into play. And a lot of times it's better to just be safer and hold your counter magic for the big problems. Of course, if Drew doesn't really have any answers besides that force, then the V-Click resolving may actually give his opponent more information.
Oh, that's pretty brutal.
And a second V-Click. Pretty bad for Drew if he chose to force the first one. And he has to let this resolve.
He does have swords in hand, actually.
But his only white source is tapped, so once the V-Click resolves, he's going to have to either lose that swords or lose another key spell that might be in his hand.
Oh, so he forces removing Jace, leaving himself with just 2 cards, one of which is Swords to Plowshares. So if Alex fights back, well, which it looks like he's doing, fighting over Vendilion Click is it's a good card.
It is a very good card.
And Alex has the Hydroblast. Or is it Pyroblast? Sorry.
It's a Pyroblast.
I always get it mixed up because I'm like, wait, it's a Pyro... It's blasting the blue spell, so it's a Hydro, right? But it's red, I guess, so it's Pyro. It's like, wait, I don't...
Pyroblast.
Pyroblast.
One of my favorite Pauper decks of all time is one of the strongest facets it has is that it plays 8 red blasts post-sideboard. So the best sideboard cards available in Pauper.
Yeah.
Red blasts.
Really red counter spells and removal spells. Like the blasts are so good. I think that's pretty much, I mean, that's what Drew is splashing red for. That's it. Red Elemental Blast and Pyroblast, 2 of each. I mean, it's that good.
Yeah, Rebs are just one of the better things you can do. Ooh, and a Thrun. That's going to be pretty good.
Wow.
Drew really needs a second white and a Wrath of God, or he's in a lot of trouble here.
So it looks like Alex chose to let Drew keep his hand. I think it was just Dust Bowl and Swords.
I believe so, yes.
I guess he figures if you want to Swords my click, that's fine. You're not going to be able to deal with Thrun. I think that's pretty much all that was about. Alex just wanted to be able to find a window knowing that Thrun was safe.
Yeah, now with this, Thrun is just so good against the blue decks. It can't be countered. It cannot be the target of spells or abilities. So it regenerates, so in Standard, Day of Judgment doesn't even kill it. In Legacy, it's one of the most effective tools you have to fight the mono blue deck, or this blue-white deck. The blue-white deck is cold unless it's able to draw one of its few Wrath of Gods, or I guess an Elspeth could help keep it at parity. But there are a lot of control decks that absolutely cannot beat a Thrun in this format.
Yeah. It's a really strong card, and it's funny because I feel like it's actually stronger in Legacy than in Standard, but that may change pretty soon with a new format. So Alex brainstorms in response to Drew's Swords on the Vendilion click and finds a Mental Misstep, assuming it wasn't already in his hand. I assume that's why he brainstormed. And Mental Missteps the Swords to Plowshares. So Vendilion click and Thrun get in, taking a chunk of Drew's life total, and then Alex takes a chunk out of Drew's spirits by playing a Jace the Mind Sculptor. And it is looking really bad.
Really bad for Drew.
So
Drew just may be dead on board. Well, he has the path, or the swords in hand, rather.
Yeah, so there's Dryad Arbor, all in here. Winter Factory blocks Thrun.
Yep. So he goes ahead, blocks the Winter Factory, and then uses his Dust Bowl to deal the Dryad Arbor.
Yeah. So it takes 3, goes down to 4. Alex Fate Seals Drew and leaves it on top.
The Phyrexian Metamorph proving itself to be a very real card, now seeing play in Legacy.
Yeah, we saw Big Head Joe running that earlier, and here it is in. Is it in the main deck, or where are you seeing Phyrexian Metamorph?
Oh, I was just.
Oh, you brought
about,
it up.
Yeah.
I thought you saw it in one of the lists. I'm thinking, wait a minute.
No, I figured this was it. So Alex is victorious here. The Thrun really gave him a huge edge in Game 3 there. Drew has done very well at Legacy Opens, playing control decks like this in the past. Unfortunately for him, after round 5, he's left at 3-2. Now he's going to need to win out to place in the top 16 here.
Yeah, sometimes you just can't find the answers, and that was pretty much the case in Game 1, where he could not find the Wrath of God. But he does have answers to Progenitus main deck, just couldn't find them. And then
again in Game 3, he needed a Wrath.
Same situation, or not same situation, but similar situation where Wrath of God is the answer he needs, and he just can't find it. And in this case, he didn't really have much of a way to dig either. It was very much. It needed to be at the top, and Drew didn't even have a Jace.
Yeah, and even if he had drawn one, Alex had his, which was blocking. So
he spent a lot of resources fighting over Vendilion click from Alex, only to win that fight, and Alex followed up with a second Vendilion click. So it's just very difficult. So we're going to take a 10-minute break until the next round. So come back in just a few minutes, and we'll bring you round 6.
So long.